Hello and welcome back everyone to another Alpha Math video. In this lesson, we'll be focusing on the topic systems of equations. We will primarily be focusing on linear equations, so just x's and y's, no x squareds or anything fancy like that. And we'll have a look at two types of methods, the elimination method and the substitution method. For our first equation, we have x plus y equal to 5 and 2x minus 3y equal to 5. Now make sure your x's, y's, and constant values are all aligned like they are over here. And what I want to do now is go ahead and multiply this first equation by a factor of 3. Okay, so let me rewrite that over here. We'll multiply the x by 3. We'll also multiply the y with the 3 as well as the 5. Okay. Now, the second equation is going to be written down as is. I won't change that at all. Okay, now this is the elimination process that's going to happen. First of all, maybe you have a question. Why did I choose to multiply by 3? Because now, when we add these two equations to one another, let's say I add the x's together, add the y's together, and then add the constant values together, notice that the y's will end up cancelling out because we have positive 3y and negative 3y, and they will actually cancel each other out. So if you're adding up and down like that, we get 3x plus 2x, which is 5x. 3y minus 3y ends up cancelling, so we don't need to write anything over here. And 15 plus 5 is equal to 20. Okay, so if 5x is equal to 20, divide 5 on both sides to get x alone. So it turns out that x is equal to 4. Okay, so x equal to 4 is your answer for x. Now that you know what x is equal to, use this first equation, this equation that we started with. Okay, so let's think about it. If x is equal to 4, what is y equal to? Because x plus y must be equal to 5. So that must mean that y is equal to 1. And here is your answer for y. Okay, we're going to have a look at a second example. Question B. 3x plus y equal to 1 and x plus 2y equal to 12. Okay, we'll start out by writing these on top of one another. Right, now for these equations, I'll multiply this top equation by negative 2. Okay, so you multiply each term of that equation by negative 2. So let's see, what do we get? This becomes negative 6x minus 2y, or negative 2y, equal to negative 2. So every term in that equation gets multiplied by that factor of negative 2. The last equation we'll write down as is. We're not going to change anything. Right, draw the line. We're going to add again the columns, add the x's together, add the y's together, and the constants as well. So negative 6x plus x is equal to negative 5x. Then the negative 2y will eliminate with a positive 2y. Remember, that's the whole reason I multiplied this equation by negative 2. It was so that these terms could then cancel. Now let's just add over here. Negative 2 plus 12 is equal to 10. And if you divide both sides by the negative 5, so that we get x alone, turns out x is equal to negative 2. Right, so that's our answer for x. Remember, now that you've solved x, you need to substitute now back into one of your original equations. Okay, so we'll use this top one again, and we worked out x as negative 2, right? So 3 multiplied by negative 2 is equal to negative 6, plus y is equal to 1. Add 6 to both sides, and we'll find that y is equal to 7. So our answer for x is negative 2, and for y, it's 7. Okay, here's one more example using the elimination technique. Okay, Now I've already written the first equation down, 4x minus 3y equal to negative 7. But now when I go ahead and write down the second equation, first have a look. Can you see how all the terms are jumbled up? They're not where they should be. We're going to put the 3x right in front. So the 3x will be over here in line with the x terms. The 2y would be after that. So we're going to say plus 2y. And then instead of saying minus 16, we'll add 16 to both sides. And therefore we'll get positive 16, but on the right hand side of the equation. Now that they are aligned properly, let's see how we can go about eliminating the variables. Probably the quickest way to do this is to multiply, let's say multiply this equation by 3 and multiply this equation by negative 4. And you're going to see in a second why I'm choosing to multiply by these constant values. So when we multiply 4x by 3, we get 12x minus 3y times 3, that's 9y, equal to 7 times 3, which is, or negative 7 times 3, which is negative 21. Then multiply the bottom equation by 4, so you get negative 12x minus 8y, and then 16 times negative 4, which is equal to negative 64. Okay, so again, we're just going to go ahead and add these two linear expressions. So when you add the top expression with the bottom one, notice how they just cancel one another out like that. This is why we chose to multiply by 3 and negative 4. It's so that these terms, the 4x and the 3x, which we aligned here, it's so that they can sort of have a common multiple, right? We can find their common multiple and then sort of cancel them like that. So the one term must be positive and the other one negative, so that we can cancel them out like that. So let's continue. Negative 9y minus 8y is equal to negative 17y, and then negative 21 minus 64 is equal to negative 85. Okay, at this point you want to go ahead and divide by negative 17 on both sides so that you can solve y. The negatives will cancel out. 85 divided by 17 is 5. So y is equal to 5. Okay, again, we'll use one of these top equations to solve x. And I'll just take the first one. So 4x minus 3y equal to negative 7. Now you want to go ahead and substitute that y value with the 5 that you calculated for y and simplify further. So negative 3 times 5 and add 15 now to both sides. So that is 8. There you go. X is equal to 2 and y is equal to 5. Okay. So that was the gist of the elimination method. Now to move on to the substitution method. With this method, you need to either make x or y the subject of the formula. So what that means is, I'll take this equation that we have over here, x plus 2y equal to 4. Then I want to make x the subject of the formula by subtracting 2y on both sides of the equation. So that makes x equal to 4 minus 2y. Now, if x is equal to 4 minus 2y, we can substitute this value for x with the second equation where you also see an x. Okay, let's write that one over here. 3x minus 4y equal to 7. Now, substitute your x variable with the 4 minus 2y. Okay. At this point, you want to go ahead and distribute the 3 with the brackets. So that is 12 minus 6y minus 4y equal to 7. Okay, we can go ahead and add some like terms now. Negative 6y minus 4y is equal to 10y. And then this 12 when you subtract it on the other side, 7 minus 12 is negative 5. Okay, divide both sides by negative 10 to get y all on its own. Negative 5 divided by negative 10 is equal to a half. And that makes y equal to 1/2. Okay, now that you know that y is equal to a half, let's go ahead and find out what x is equal to. X is equal to 4 minus 2y. And since y is equal to a half, we'll say 2 times a half, which gives us, well, in this case, negative 2 times a half is negative 1. And therefore, x is 4 minus 1, which is equal to 3. So this is the answer for x. X is 3, y is a half. Let's have a look at a second example. Okay, we are given the two equations, 5x minus y equal to 8, and also 4x plus 2y equal to negative 2. Now, let's have a look at our first equation, and we're going to make y the subject of this formula. Okay, not negative y, positive y. So in order to do that, we should add y to both sides of the equation and subtract 8 to both sides of the equation. It's basically just juggling the pieces, right? You take the negative y over to that side and the positive 8 over to this side. And when it switches places, just remember to also change the sign. Now, this means that y is equal to 5x minus 8. So go ahead now and replace the y variable in your other equation with 5x minus 8. Okay, so we're going to say 4x plus 2y, but instead of writing y, we write 5x minus 8. Every other part of that equation should stay as is. Now, multiply or distribute the 2 with the brackets. So 4x plus 10x minus 16 equal to negative 2. Add your x values, so 4 and 10, and that should give us 14x. Then carry this negative 16 over to the other side, so it means you'll have to add it to that side, negative 2 plus 16, and that should give us positive 14. So 14x is equal to 14. Divide both sides by 14 to get x alone. And x is equal to 1. X is equal to 1. That's our answer. Okay, we still need to substitute this answer now back into our original equation, or the one that we used in the very beginning, y equal to 5x minus 8. Substitute x with 1. You calculated x to be 1. So then this should give us an answer for y. 5 minus 8 is equal to negative 3. So that means y is equal to negative 3. Okay, and so here's your answers. Y is equal to negative 3 and x is equal to 1. These are the solutions for those two equations. Right, so on to our last example for substitution. Here we have x minus 3 equal to negative 2y, and also 4y plus x equal to 6. Now, to make x the subject of the formula, we'll go ahead and add 3 to both sides so that x can be equal to 3 minus 2y. Okay, remember it's important to either make x or y the subject of the formula. Okay, so here we have x the subject of that equation. Now we're going to substitute the value for x, or the expression for x, with the variable x. So 4y plus x. X is equal to 3 minus 2y. So that's what you substitute. Now go ahead and distribute, or I guess there's nothing to distribute over there because it's just positive 1 in front of the bracket. So we can actually just add up our like terms. 4y minus 2y gives us 2y. And then if we carry this positive 3 over to the other side, it's going to be 6 minus 3, which is then just 3. Okay, divide both sides by 2 to get y alone, and y is equal to 3 over 2. Okay, and that's the answer for y. Now to find x, use this equation again, and we'll say x is equal to 3 minus 2 times y. Remember, y is the 3 over 2, so substitute that in. This numerator 2 will cancel with the denominator 2, and that leaves us with the 3 at the top. So you get 3 minus the 3 at the top, and so that is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0, y is equal to 3 over 2, and these are our solutions for the simultaneous equation. Now, my question to you is, which method is easier, the substitution method or the elimination method? I want you to practice both, try these methods with different systems of equations, and then you find the method that works for you. Okay, so there you go. Have fun with it, and I'll see you in the next video.